Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. With me on the show this week is Angilina Stylianou, who's a coach by day, helping people with things like limiting belief and confidence to help achieve their goals in life. On top of that, she has a big passion for all kinds of music, as you'll get to hear or watch in the show. You'll see her great energy and enthusiasm come through, and it was a really enjoyable conversation full of points that were some were quite poignant, but some was really good fun, and it just made for another great episode for you to enjoy listening to or watching. If you're new to the show, then you can sign up to be a guest on one of the links that will be in the description somewhere, as well as check out the other replays of the other guests that I've had on the show on my YouTube channel, Inner Peace Walker TV, or on all major podcast platforms. So enjoy the show and feel supersonic. Hello there and welcome to the latest episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. If you've not seen or heard the show before, first of all, where have you been? But for those of you who are new to the show, this is basically where you take the mic and share with us your stories about how music in your life, so songs, bands, albums, soundtracks, theme tunes, you name it, have intertwined with moments, events, people, times in your life. Because I believe we've all got stories to tell when it comes to that kind of thing, whether it's the first dance at a wedding, the first album you ever bought, the song that reminds you of someone, something, somewhere. I thought, you know what, let's just have a platform where we can all share it. So this is what it's all about. I have the great pleasure to introduce this week on the show Angilina Stylianou. She is a coach and entrepreneur by day, but when we spoke on our setup session, she's got a very clear passion for music and would like to share the stage today. So Angelina, welcome to the show. If you want to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, hi, Angelina or Angie, Angela or Doris, depends on where you know me from or how long you've known me, I guess. And I wanted to ask you if it's all right if I call you Vish.
Perfect. Perfect. Fine. Vish is good.
Is Vish all right?
Vish is good.
Okay, good. All right. So I've been thinking about this obviously a lot about how I was going to start this conversation, and I think a good way to start the conversation would be so last year it was my 45th birthday, and I've decided I've never been married, and I was never going to have a first dance. I was never going to have that big, getting everybody, and I've got lots of friends all over the place. So I've got
right.
my best long-term friend, Hayley, she's in Leicester, and I've got my other best friend Gabs, she's in Colchester, and I've got people kind of all over the place because I've lived all over the place. And so I've never put everybody together before, ever. Some of my friends I've been friends with for like 20 odd years. They all know about each other, but they've never met.
Right.
I've got really good friends I've got friends all over the place. So I decided last year that I was going to, for my 45th, I was going to just have a massive big party. And
nice.
So it was right. It was 2022. So everybody had been locked down pretty much 2 years. And my birthday's at the end of January. So it was kind of like the first opportunity for everybody to actually
come back together.
So I had it was called Saints. I like planning parties and stuff anyway, but I called it Saints and Sinners. So it was fancy dress. Everyone made an effort. I think there was about 45 people there. It was busy. And I had fire dancers and a DJ and food and just really went for it. But what I did was get into music, that's where we're getting to. But what I did is the DJ is a really good friend of mine locally. His name's Andy. We spoke quite a lot leading up to it. And what I did is that I made sure that for all of my best people that were there, or my people that I love, everybody that was there, I love, but I made sure that everybody had a specific song. So I made sure that through the whole night, every single person that was in there would hear that song and go, oh, where is she? I've got to
That's
find
my
her.
song.
So I did that. I did it for everyone. Like my best friend Hayley, we both call each other Doris. That's where my nickname came from. She's my Doris. I'm her Doris.
And why Doris?
It's a southern term, so a lot of guys call their women their Doris, don't they? This is my
That's
Doris.
true. That's true. Yeah.
So she's always been my Doris, and I've always been her Doris. So as I started to meet and mingle into her friendship circles, she's always introduced me as Doris. So it's just kind of stuck. I know it gets confusing. It gets confusing, but yeah, we've always called each other Doris. So like our song, the song that reminds me most of her is "Charming Man" by the Smiths.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's just her song. As soon as I hear that song, it just like absolutely just makes me think of her. I think it is her favorite song in the whole world. But for me, what reminds me of, so when we first met, we worked together at a mortgage company in Leicester.
Right.
And we're nothing alike. Okay, we're complete polar opposites. Like she's tall and blonde and slim and stunning, and I'm short and dark and like.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm Cypriot, but this is not my natural hair. So we're polar opposites.
Okay.
And I was just like, I can't stand her. And I don't think she's standing me either. She was like, oh, man. And we got sat opposite each other at work. And it was back when Cha Cha Slide first came out in the charts, remember? So my son will have been about 3. So it's got to be like 23 years ago that Cha Cha Slide was out in the charts. And it used to come on in the background in the radio, and I'd be like dancing to it across from this time. And that kind of started us talking. And I used to dare her to say things on the phone when she was speaking to people. I'd be like, see if you can slip Fairy Muff into the conversation. And do you know, like things like that. And we've been best friends ever since. Like she's. Yeah.
Oh, to hear that conversation when that got slipped in.
Well, I think people are just really stunned on the end of the phone because they're just kind of like, did she say Fairy Muff or am I imagining things? You know?
It's like, I know this is a customer service, but I didn't think it'd be this kind of customer service. But
yeah, so I think for Hayley, for Hayley, it's like Cha Cha Slide, but we also love Jubel.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what it's called. Kept my phone out so I can check because I can go into my my tunes thing. Wait 1 second.
I love that you've got like that set up on your phone already. That you can go, wait, let me just scroll that. That's the beauty of it, you know. That it's something I mentioned on show with other people that like beforehand, if you liked an album or a band, you had to invest the time in it. Someone like if the album is out, you got to go find a shop that sold the album as a single, go queue up for it, or whatever it might be. But nowadays, like literally, if you think of a song or band or what is that? Literally everything is on your phone, all the whole discography, everything. Man, it's crazy.
It's so much better. I mean, I've got right. So let me tell you my playlist. Right, I've got my.
Oh, there you go.
Right, so I've got like loads of random shit. It's like Acoustic Chill, Amy Winehouse, Angie Stone, Bryan Adams, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, Phil Collins, Beautiful South. There's a mixture. Then I've got absolute faves, chilled, faves 1, faves 2, fucking best ones, best house music. It goes on and on. Very fucking best ones, absolutely best upbeat ones. Do you know, that's what my playlists are like. I can't find the Jubel song, but it's in there somewhere. I should have made a note of it. But they're mine and Hayley's songs, and I don't know, I know that Cha Cha Slide came out 23 years ago because I know that's when me and Hayley first met. And it's weird because music can just invoke the most passionate thoughts and feelings from your past, from your present, and I think it's just an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing.
100%. And look, that's half the point of putting the show together, because even though for some that may struggle to articulate their nerves, if you ask them on the spot, what song reminds you of a person or life, or what was the last song that made you feel X emotion, they might they might struggle for a bit.
Yeah.
And those are people that may go, well, I've never actually thought that the two link together, but ostensibly, well, they do, right? You timestamp a song that came out 20 odd years ago, but instantly it was like, oh, it's the time I met my best mate at work. Yeah. And songs are such that they come out in times of the year or times in our lives where inextricably the year itself, anything else could have happened, some majorly world event, some news event or whatever, but that was when that song came out.
Yeah.
And you might have heard it for the first time, and you link it. So that's my point. These stories are in there somewhere. You'll have inostensibly, I've said that word again, but never mind. You'll have linked it to that moment without you consciously realizing. Let's not use it if you go, right, I'm gonna take in whatever that song is. It's like it just plays, and it happens to be there as you forge that memory or that association. So that whenever you hear it elsewhere, like you said, that idea you had at your party where everybody got to play their song, and instantly when it comes to that, oh, that's mine. That's what I mean. And everyone's got to have a different story to how that song links to them.
Yeah. So it was the one. I made sure that it was the one song that I knew it didn't matter what everybody was doing or how drunk they were or whether they were upstairs, because I had party games upstairs. So it was at a local bar. Downstairs I had a DJ and there was no tables, everybody was dancing and stuff, and then upstairs there was like beer pong and like various other games and food and standard stuff. Pineapple hedgehog, it's not a party, is it? But I made sure that wherever they were, as soon as that song come on, they'd come and find me for a dance, because they'd be like, oh man, so it was good. It was really,
that's amazing. So how did you set that up? Did you get people to like on the invite you said, send me your favorite song, or did you know that was their song?
Yeah, every single person that was at my party, I have a song with that. I have a real thing with music, like I don't know. Well, that's what we're here to explain, isn't it? Like Hayley, it's The Charming Man, Cha Cha Slide, and Jubel. Those songs are our songs. So I made sure. No, I didn't ask anybody to tell me what music they wanted. I played the song that I associate mostly with that person from like previous times when we've been out, or whatever.
And you just sort of rely on them to pick that up. You're like, they'll know the link and why.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
My friends, because I think I live miles away from everybody. Everybody's kind of all over the place, and my friends and my groups of friends see each other probably more than I see them, and Selena's one of my closest friends. We genuinely might not talk for months and months and months, but if we need each other, drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And we see each other at least twice a year. We usually do like a festival. So this year we went to like a little local festival called Retro, which is like a 90s house music.
Nice.
No, we didn't do that this year. That was last year we went to Retro with Sam and Kayla. This year we didn't because she's getting married next year, so she's got other stuff going on. So she's saving for that. But we've done like Leeds Festival and Foo Fighters and all that kind of stuff. And then she comes up for a Christmas piss up, which she is still doing. And like because when I spend time with my people, it's genuinely in the moment with those people, and we just have a laugh and listen to music. And there'll be certain songs that we always end up listening to the same songs. Like one of my I've lost 3 really important people in my life in the last 5 years. I've lost 2 of what I would call my best friends.
Right.
And I've lost another really good friend at the beginning of this year. So me and Tamara was one of my best friends. She died just over 2 years ago now, but we listened to Lady Antebellum. So I lived in South Africa.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So I lived in South Africa, and I met Tamara through Solo, who's also gone now, when I was out in South Africa. And everyone was really unsure whether me and Tamara were going to get on, because she's from Israel. She was in like the Israeli army, and she was like fiery and feisty. And at the time, I'd gone through a really shit breakup. I was in a bad place, and they were like, them two are either going to get on really well, or it's just not going to work. And we just like clicked. It was just instantaneous. And we used to go off into Josie and blast out Lady Antebellum. And it was just, everybody was like, this is weird, man. You too, and that music, and who'd have thought it? But that music, Lady Antebellum, will never take me to anyone except Tamara. Any Lady Antebellum, it just is her. It was our songs. We got into I don't know how I'm still alive from South Africa. We got into so much trouble, but it was so much fun, and it's easier to talk about it now. I've got like a sad song list.
Okay.
And my sad song list is just named Solo, Tamara, and Rach, because they're through. So Solo died nearly 5 years ago now, or just over 5 years ago, and she took her own life, and that was just impossible. And we had a lot of songs. There was a lot of songs jointly that we had as a group for her. Things like, I've got them listed here. So like Evanescence, My Immortal, Wind Beneath My Wings, The Rose Bette Midler, and they were always her songs. But for me, it was Hold On by Oasis. When I was in South Africa, and there was me, her, and Ian, and we would be driving to wherever we were going to be working, and that would come on the radio. And I don't know, even back then, before any of like the shit happened, it was just a really poignant song for the three of us, and I think it always will be. And it wasn't, the other songs for Solo were songs collectively that were played at her funeral or that were already associated with her. But the Oasis Hold On song was very different. It was just a bit more personal between like the three of us.
You mean Stop Crying Your Heart Out?
Yeah. Is it not called Hold On? It is called Hold On, isn't it? Or is it called Stop Crying Your Heart Out?
So the one that starts Hold On, Don't Be Scared, You'll Never Change What's Been and Gone.
Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Yeah, that is that, yeah. So yeah, I think like it's weird, because for a really long time there were certain songs I absolutely couldn't listen to, because I just couldn't listen to them without, and I'm only just now getting to the point where those songs now are bringing and invoking happy memories rather than that sadness. And
okay,
but it's, I think because I have I had another friend lose her battle with life and depression this year at the beginning of February, and I'd actually taken a bit of a break from Facebook, and she'd been helping me set up my website and helping me set up my business. But back at the end of December, beginning of January, she was having a bit of a hard time, and actually it's hard, man. The last message I sent her was, whatever happens, just remember to breathe. And that was the last message and the last contact I had with her. And then I think it was about the 10th or 11th of February, I thought, I'm just going to log on to my Facebook. And I logged on to my Facebook, and the first thing that I saw was that Rachel's funeral was going to be on the 4th of March. And I was like, hold on. And I think that fucking Solo dying hit me, Tamara dying hit me, Rachel dying hit me harder than, but I don't think it was that it hit me harder. I think it's because because of lockdown and stuff, there was loads of funerals that I couldn't go to. I couldn't go to my nan's, I couldn't go to Solo's, I couldn't go to Tamara's. And I think going to Rachel's funeral just brought all of that. It was like I went to everybody's funeral in one funeral. But they played a song at Rachel's funeral that I'd never heard before, and it's Follow the Sun by Xavier Rudd.
Okay, I've not heard it, but okay.
Okay,
Wow.
you should. And so I used to drink like a bottle of wine every night, and quite the most normal thing. And I sat this song. It's a bit of a strange one, because although it was Rachel's funeral song, if I'm having a bad day, I'll put it on and listen to it,
Right.
because it doesn't make me feel sad. It does, but it doesn't. After I listened, they played that song at her funeral, and it was the first time I'd ever heard it. The guy's got an amazing voice. It's just a really beautiful song. And I went after her funeral. I went and sat across the road at the pub, and I found the song immediately on my phone, because I knew that I loved it and I knew that it resonated. But I cried all the way through Rachel's funeral. I wasn't really taking in what was going on, and I
Sure.
wanted to listen to what those were. I wanted to listen to the song properly. And I left the funeral, and I went across the road to the pub, and I immediately put the song on my phone, and I saved it to my Solo Tamara and Rachel playlist. And I immediately, because on iPhone you can flick it up, can't you, so you can see the words? Yeah.
Lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah. So I immediately put my earpods in, and put the thing on, and I genuinely listened to that one song all the way home on the train. And I went and got a large glass of red wine, which was my favorite. I love a good red wine. And I went and got this large glass of red wine, and I listened to this song, and I listened to it again, and I listened to it again. And I thought, you know what? I need to make some really I need to make some changes here. I need to stop drinking every day. And I've got 3 really bright lights that are no longer in my life, that actually I made a massive change that day. Like, genuinely stopped drinking. I don't think I drank for about 3 or 4 months. I didn't even finish my drink in the pub. I literally just, from that day, and that there was just, and the song, there was just something about the song that I felt so incredibly deeply, that resonated, that it just I don't know, it's really weird. It gave me hope. It gave me hope for myself. And it's amazing that music can do that. It's amazing that it's, I think I'm really blessed. I hear music and it gives me goosebumps, and I feel sorry for people that don't get that feeling.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Like that, when you were describing, like, you put the headphones in, you're on the way home, that's all you heard, and you automatically made a change of behavior and thought pattern from that, saying, right, I need to make changes, I'm going to stop drinking, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that you didn't set out to do that. You weren't going to listen to it and go, right, I'm going to change. But it just, and one thing I wanted to quickly ask on that is that, you said you didn't necessarily know what it was about the song, that having read the lyrics, that might have played a part. But I think as well, there's something about the musical composition of certain songs and structures that, hit you. And, without going into the world of musical theory, whether it's, a piece played in minor chords, or as instrumentation to reflect that, so there might be a lot of strings in the song, or whichever it might be, but I'd say it's sometimes it's just the whole package together. But it's really enlightening now, where you've taken that song from what came of a very sombre, moving, sad moment to one that, like, you say you felt hope from it, and it's like that to me is just then an echo back to your values. So when you hear something that inextricably links to the values through a song, and value, and hope is a value, of yourself, then it's like, okay, that's the magic of it, I think. And as you say, it's going to be different for everybody, and the fact that we can have conversations like this can only hope to share it with other people, because I think as I said before, that people might struggle to articulate that in the moment, go, okay, what song makes you sad, or that you sort of pour out to. It's not, and people typically go to the stereotypical image of you've been dumped, or get a load of ice cream, or get a load of chocolate, or whatever, and sob. If that works for you, fine. I'm not here to say that's not cool or anything. That's to each their own. But it's this kind of story that's like, it's, you don't know what it is per se, but it hits you.
It's got a mouth organ in it.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And it starts off by, I think it starts off and it says, follow the sun, which way the wind blows on this day's begun. Breathe in the air, set your intentions, dream with care. It's a new day. It's just, I don't think they could have found a more fitting song for her. First of all, but they probably saved my life in that song, and I don't think they'll ever know that, because I think, I don't want to say too much, because there are going to be people out there that are going to hear this, and these people relate to them, and it's a very personal experience that
Sure.
they've been through, and it is. But I think that to openly say that probably if I'd have carried on drinking the way that I was, or if I hadn't have made the changes, and maybe, it would have been a detrimental twist in my life that could have led anywhere. And I think that particular song at that particular minute, at that particular time, was the worst possible experience for that family to go through, and her friends and her children. And I respect that, and I feel that right to my very core. But that song also walked me out of there and gave me a bit of hope for myself that I'd lost completely.
I love that.
I don't know if that relates, but don't get me wrong, the months coming after Rachel's funeral were incredibly difficult for me. There was, I think, because my nan died in 2020, and I was really close to my nan. I lived with my nan. I had a very, very, very close relationship with her. And I know that my nan had been gone since 2020, but I don't think it really started to sink in until after Rachel's funeral, until I watched that someone's coffin go down.
Yeah, 100%.
Solo died, and I was really poorly in 2017. I was in and out of hospital, and I couldn't go to her funeral because I was in hospital that day having a procedure. And Tamara, she lost her life in South Africa, so I was in England, and it was right at the end of lockdown, so I couldn't go to hers. So going to Rachel's and was just a massive amount of like incomprehensible grief that I really struggled with. And I spent a lot of time listening to a lot of music, a lot of really sad music. But then what I did do out of that was I built a new playlist. And I built the new playlist, and I called it Fucking Best Ones.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's got like Gravity, Josh Ritter, Homecoming, Mike Poisner, Took a Pill in Ibiza, Xavier Rudd, Follow the Sun, Van Morrison, Into the Mystic. What a great, do you know what I mean? And I started to build a more uplifting soundtrack, but one that memorialized people that I'd stopped listening to before because it made me sad.
Okay. So you're kind of able to turn around that state of, as you say, well, that's what we were saying before, like sadness, into that sense of hope. So it's no like, okay, I don't have to listen to music to still be sad for them. I can use it to create a playlist or songs that actually now are inspiring or kind of remembering them in a nice way.
Yeah. Like Dancing is Healing, Rudimental. And Tilted, Christina and the Queen. So what I did is that I looked at my friendships with those people, and I looked at other songs that we listened to that weren't emotional songs, that weren't Bette Midler and Evanescence, and those songs are all amazing songs, and they are really good songs. And sometimes, like, I am an emotional twat at times. There is no question about it, right? Honestly, I can be so emotionally stunted at times. It's insane. But other times, I really struggle to cry, and I need a good cry. and I
Okay.
can play that playlist, the Solo Tamara and Rachel playlist, and bless all their hearts, they can have me in tears like that. And then I kind of feel this bit of a release that I just need a good cry. And I don't know why I need a cry. I'm bipolar, so my mental health can be very erratic anyway. And sometimes I can sit here and cry for 2 days and not know why I'm crying. And am I crying? I've got no idea. And then other times I can just really feel like I need to just get out this really massive, overwhelming emotion. And I will go to the playlist and just, like Michael Bublé, Home. When I lived in Africa, me and Solo and Ian, we all lived in a big house together. And we used to like lay in the pool in the dark and listen to like Michael Bublé Home. And then it wasn't sad. It was a good song. But now that's changed because it was a song. And I kind of wanted to, after Rachel's funeral, I kind of, and I did have a really like horrendous couple of months. Like I couldn't even have a conversation without crying.
Right.
I had to take some time off work. And I work in business development. So a lot of my time is spent on the phone and then being rejected and being told to piss off. And in any other part of my life, I would find that, I would take that incredibly personally. But when I get into work mode, it's very different. And I was getting to like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning and I'd be in tears. Like I can't cope with I can't cope with these energies from people because my energy is just so depleted and
Sure.
and emotional. And yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that now. Music. So yeah, so I decided that I was going to create a new playlist, a playlist that reminded me of the people that I loved that were no longer around, but not necessarily in the depressing sense.
Yeah. A turnaround.
Yeah.
I really like that you've been able to take that experience and transform it to something else. Because often we have, I labeled this thing we do of linking a song to a moment or person as anchoring from the world of NLP, where that's essentially what the song is. It's a bookmark back to that place. But it's the first time actually a guest has articulated on the show probably that you've taken the same bookmark and changed the link to it.
We change the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
We have the power to do that, and I realised that really strongly. But it was a shame to me that it took such another pivotal loss in my life for me to take a step back and reframe things. But it took me a good couple of months of completely losing myself in order to do that. And I dealt with like I had not really close friends, but within the first 6 months of this year, 6 people that I knew had passed away. One like couple of old school friends, an ex-boss, Rachel, a friend of mine local. And so it was a really tough start to the year. And then obviously on top of that, I dealt with like this overwhelming emotion around the loss of Rachel and my friends. And I think I spent a lot of, it's weird because like normally I'd have like music on one of the speakers or on my telly in the lounge, but I spent a lot of time with my earpods in, just with music on as loud as I could possibly have it. And I don't know why that helped, but it's different and it does.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, it's something I think you feel when you want to amplify what you're feeling. You're already feeling that strong sense of emotion inside you, and then you need that kind of external world to reciprocate that back to you. So whether that's through increased volume of whatever you're listening to even just literally right, everything else can tune out for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to feel this very intensely. Now other people observing, I say observing, but watching might not get it. But that's when the moment becomes even more personal. You want to amplify it and almost repeat it as well.
Look, back in my raving days, I was always the one. I was always the one right down by the front, by the spear. How I've still got any hearing, like, is beyond me. Because do you know what I used to love when I think the last time properly I went anywhere that was remotely reminiscent of like the mid to late 90s was 2000. No, when was it? When did I move here? 2015. So it was New Year's Eve 2015, Brixton Academy.
Oh wow, okay.
Noisier. So we watched the New Year in at Brixton Academy with Noisier. And then on the 1st of January, it was Fatboy Slim Smile High Club at Tobacco Dock. And they had too many DJs, right? Too many DJs were playing downstairs because they had the main level at Tobacco Dock. And then downstairs underground in the car park was where they got the setup for too many DJs. And it was underground, it was in a car park, it was too many DJs. The sound system was outstanding. And I was right down the front with my friend Fran. And you know that there's that thing, right? There's that thing between listening to the music and feeling that beat in your soul. And
Yeah.
when
Oh
you
yeah.
buy them speakers, it is a different feeling.
Well, that you zone out then.
Yeah.
You literally just go, right, I'm locking in this moment. If you join me, great. If you don't, that's up to you. But yeah, I know exactly.
It's that. And then I've got the opposite end of the spectrum. So I moved up to this little village that I'm in West Yorkshire in 2015. And I moved into my current house, I think in 2017. And then during lockdown, me and my neighbours, just our three houses, this whole end of the street, but our three, we got really close during lockdown. Right. I mean, we had quizzes, we had egg and spoon races, and we were respectful, but you know, we needed to keep. So I live on my own, and I think I'd like to think if there was like a little beacon of happiness shining out of the world during lockdown, it came from our corner of the street.
Oh, that's nice.
We had a really good time. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't. We didn't take the piss, and I'm not saying that we partied hard or we were respectful.
No, but you're right. It was a very much a time where you had to keep some sort of sanity and contact with people.
So where I live in West Yorkshire, the streets are quite narrow, and we've all got like little front yards. So Mike and Russ would stay in their front yard. We would then sit because there was nobody on the roads. The roads were empty, weren't they? So we'd then sit sort of a bit in the road, and then Rachel and Rich would sit a little bit. So it's Mike and Russ, Rachel and Rich, they'd sit a little bit over there. And we just made because the weather was glorious, we just made the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
And I have some very odd songs that I really love.
Okay, here we go.
Neil from the Young Ones, Hole in My Shoe, but it's not the A side that's the good side. It's the B side, Hurdy Gurdy Mushroom Man. It's a good one.
Who'd have thought you'd have got the Young Ones quoted on this show? Brilliant. That's the point.
I used to love this. Hands up, who likes Neil? Everybody puts their hands down. I'm sorry. I love the Young Ones. So yeah, and then we was out one night. It was quite late. I think we'd all had a bit of wine. And I'd said, we were talking about old songs. And I remember there was a song back in the early 80s called Grandma, I Love You.
Okay.
And it used to really upset me because I used to really worry back in the early 80s when I was like 6 about my nan dying, which was ridiculous because she lived to 98. But it was one of those songs, you know, when you were really young. But there was another one, and it was called "It's Horrible Being in Love When You're 8.5." Right?
Okay.
Now, I didn't think there would be another person on this planet that would know that song. And we were sat outside one day. We were just randomly talking. And we were talking about old songs. And I was like, oh, it's horrible being in love. And Russ was there. He was like, oh, it's horrible being in love when you're 8. And I was like, you are the only other person I've ever met that knows that song. So random songs. Me and Russ always duet Elaine Page and Barbara Dixon. I know him so well. That's
right.
Our song. And I always sing the wrong parts, and he always tells me off. There's lots of videos floating around of him shushing me for singing the wrong parts. And I think I've murdered Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It, quite a few times. And I know Salt and Pepper, Push It, all the way through.
I'm so tempted to get you to give us an extract of it now that you've mentioned both of them.
There's probably some videos knocking around. I might dig them out for you.
Oh, that would be quite the what to me. You're so right to say these the silly songs, the funny songs. It's like most of the show and guests that have been on so far have obviously talked about enamored songs like on albums, well known. You can get the depth of emotion that you bring to the story, but it is these random, funny, silly songs that it will only be, as you said, you and your mate that will get it.
Yeah.
Everybody else go, what are you doing? And no matter where you heard it from, whether it's childhood, I think our childhood. I'm speaking as like someone from like the mid 80s onwards, the early 90s. Kids TV was rife with theme tunes and little songs and comedy as well, just littered throughout, where just like it'd only be a couple of you that would get it, and nobody else would go, okay, these, I don't know what's going on here. But you remember it as you go on through life, and even when you meet later on, it's like, nowadays I think there's a whole, they're remixing and revamping and restoring old stuff. Like, can you just leave it alone, please? Don't try and don't ruin it. Just leave it alone. It's like, just stop. We don't need to CGI and 4K everything. Just leave it alone, right? As it was. But I love that you brought up random tracks, because they're sometimes the most fun to relate to.
There are so many though. So my earliest memory of music is with my mum, right? So I've actually got all my mum's vinyl upstairs, and there are some. Let me tell you, there is some absolute classics in there. But when my mum used to have Pioneer separates, we all wanted them. She had the silver Pioneer separates with the turntable, and before CDs, obviously, because I was born in the 70s. So it was a double tape, amplifier, radio tuner, record player, and then she had a lot of vinyl. She had a lot of vinyl singles and LPs. And what we used to do is my mum used to, there were two massive big speakers. My mum used to put the speakers across from each other and turn them slightly inwards, and we used to lay on the floor in between, and she'd put records on. And that's where I think my very, very, very first love for a song was Prince's Little Red Corvette.
Oh.
And I was very lucky to see him in concert. I'm absolutely blessed to have seen that man. I think, I'm so lucky. He was an absolute favourite of mine, and I think from a really, really, really little girl, I'm talking like 5 and 6, Little Red Corvette is a song that I think has lived with me through pretty much all of my life. It's just,
why that song in particular?
I love the sound, I love the riff, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know why that particular. I mean, I love all of his songs. I've got some of his albums framed upstairs on the wall, and I don't know, just that song. It's really weird. There's I've got loads of songs like that. Loads of songs that just for some reason there's just something about. I think it's everything about them. I think it's the guitar. It's the chords. It's just something. I think there's probably more if I really, really thought about it. But I think there's probably about 10 or 12 songs that I can't tell you why, but I just feel them to my very, very soul.
Wouldn't it be great to try and articulate that? But as you said, it's like, God, where do you start?
There's just, I think as you get older, you can articulate why you love a song. But I think when something resonates with you at such a young age, I think that's really difficult to put into words, because it's not something you can voice. It's a feeling, and it's really hard to articulate a feeling when you're so young.
Well, I wonder if that's the answer itself, because in my space of personal development, I speak about the fact that as kids, we naturally feel every emotion that, you know, we experience through, you know, our environment, whatever, and we don't necessarily have a filter system yet to go, okay, that's an acceptable emotion, that's not acceptable from, you know, our caregivers. So we, as kids, well, whether you're an adult or a kid, you will feel something naturally. However much you try and repress something, you will naturally feel it, because that's you, that's your experiences. As kids, we also have that ability to express. As I said, we don't go, oh, hang on, there are people around, I better not display it, whatever. They will just express it. And often, you know, it's through mediums like TV, music, and a product of our environment that we go, okay, wow, I don't know what it is, you know. And, you know, you see it with kids, you know, when they run around with some, you know, in happiness and sheer happiness, that I think most adults should do more. But, you know, that's another story, time for another tale. But as we grow older, we're like, okay, I might feel the same kind of things. As you said, get more articulate and able to say, why is this song or link into this? But as kids, it's like, I like it, that's just it.
Yeah, know? And it's quite a rude song. It's not a song for 6-year-olds. I absolutely 1,000,000% did not understand that song. I bet I didn't fucking understand that song when I went to see it when I was 14 either, if I'm honest. But yeah, and I love Prince. He's one of my long term favorite, and George Michael, he's a really good long term favorite as well. And yeah, man, Prince. I was so lucky to see Prince. Like,
where did you see him?
So I saw him at Earl's Court in London.
Oh wow!
I saw him the Diamonds and Pearls tour. And I was 14, my uncle was quite a famous jockey.
Okay.
And he had run a race for a trainer that was something to do with the Prince tour, and he'd got tickets. So they weren't just tickets, they were good tickets, you know, like we were right at the side of the stage, right at the front. And he did, I was like 14, he was half naked on a bed with these two half naked women that kind of came round above you with him singing. I'm like, people didn't give a shit about kids in the 80s and early 90s.
I was going to say, though, what kind of show is this? What's going on here?
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was saying that I'm sure if you were born in the 70s and possibly early 80s, you at some point narrowly avoided being kidnapped. Because no one gave a shit. We were kicked out in the morning and we weren't allowed back until the evening, and we were not where we should have been.
True, that's very true, actually. You know, people would be like, yeah, they'll be somewhere. And like now, it's like, you know, can't move into the next room without being monitored and surveyed. And in some cases, it's good, but you know.
We used to pay, I think it was like £1.20, and we used to get a full day travel card on the London Underground. And we would like go to the Trocadero. I auditioned for a West End musical once.
Okay.
We just walked in off the street. It was Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat. I can't sing. My mate couldn't sing. We were about 12. We thought it'd be a good idea, so we just did it. We got kicked out, but I sang on stage in a theatre.
The world doesn't know what it's missed. Maybe you should come back and try then. Go back, you know.
There are many of my friends out there that are shaking their heads right now. They really, really are going, just no, don't do it.
I don't know, Angie. I think, you know, the world could be ready for someone like you now. Get rid of all this auto-tune and stuff. Get the real deal out there, you know?
So every year I ring most of my friends on their birthdays and usually sing at them. So
brilliant.
It's true. So Hayley will be like, she'll be like, you're ringing to sing, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. Yeah, no, it's bad. It's real. Although there are some songs that I can really belt out quite well, and it's when I'm not, if I'm a bit tipsy and I'm not conscientious of my
quick
voice.
Where's the wine? Quick, where is it?
No, don't. Like, I'm drinking chai latte, cold chai latte. It's not going to get me drunk enough to sing, let me tell you. Yeah, there are some songs. Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow, Picture, is one that I like. And I'm quite good at singing, but I need to be drunk.
Right, I think we'll have to get you on another show to do a live session then. Literal proper live session. The fact that you've said you've got this song and then that song and it just needs to like. I'm telling you, we can then send this off to. No, let's not send off X Factor. We can make a fortune on this. And that, is that even going on? I don't know.
It's
Whatever.
not going to happen, honestly. If you heard, you'd be like, "Yeah, we made a mistake." So,
No, don't need all this auto-tune faff and stuff like that.
I've got this thing that makes everything sound better. So
Listen, in modern technologies, there are a load of good things, like as you said, the sound popper and all that kind of thing. But actually, a guest a couple of weeks ago on the show, probably not, I don't think on the show, but in another post of it, said that things like auto tuning have, in essence, ruined a lot of today's music because it's very much like a homogenized product, and it's all about now what's going to make the most money rather than make the most kind of like cultural impact or lasted. Like you talked about artists like Prince, George Michael. It's been what, 30, 40, 50 years since they were around, yet you still talk about them today.
of course,
Can you really see that many artists of today being spoke about years down the line, even in the immediate future?
I know what, I agree. I mean, I thought it was just me, and it's something I've been really since I said I was going to come on here and chat with you about music. I've been kind of thinking about it quite a lot because I've realized over the last few weeks or the last week or so since I've been listening to my music that there isn't a whole lot of new music in there. I think quite possibly there's a few dance tracks in there like Rudimental and stuff. Imagine Dragons, they're pretty new, right? Are they pretty new? But I think I don't know whether this I don't know if this is going to be a little bit controversial, and I'm probably going to kick myself afterwards because like I've been thinking about this. Like you say something and afterwards you think, shit, I forgot about that person. I think the last really influential person to come out of modern times that will last is Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that.
I think her unique voice, I think her early stuff before she got famous, the stuff that's raw is just, there's nobody else like it. Her blues, her passion, I think, and I like Busted. I've got my music.
Someone's got to.
Yeah, Hanson. Have you heard the latest version of Mbop? They re-released it a little while ago.
Again? Oh, here we go. I was saying that reproducing old 90s stuff. Here we go.
Yeah,
have they done it?
Yeah, it's actually really good. But I like Tony Sedaka and Fergal Sharkey. A good heart these days is hard to find.
There you go. A little snippet. There you go. You can sing.
Taste is eclectic, honestly. So,
no, I get why you say Amy Winehouse, because have you seen her documentary?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is the same makers made the Oasis documentary Supersonic, so you can see the cinematography they've done it, and it's not just a typical piecing together. They go into really great detail without making it into a talking heads format, which I really like, right? And you just get from these documentaries the sign that these bands and artists, they're forces of nature that they come along maybe for a short while in Amy Winehouse's case and other artists, but the impact they left behind is such that, as you said, you struggle to think of someone else again. Now look, people can then point that, but what about people like Ed Sheeran, Adele, Coldplay? Great artists in their own right. Not I'm stemming away now from saying that's wrong and this is right. Look, if that's what gets you going, all good. But as you said, it's who's going to last.
Yeah, it's not about longevity. Well, it is a bit about, because it is about who's going to last. But what I was saying with Amy Winehouse is, I think Ed Sheeran. Do you know what I love about Ed Sheeran is, and I don't know what you call it. And I watched his documentaries not long ago, and there was a lot of what he was going through with losing his friend that really resonated.
Yeah.
And I connected to that video, and I think it helped me quite a lot, to be honest. But I don't know what you call it. But he obviously, when he's on stage, does all the music bits himself. What is that?
Yeah. I've seen it. It's quite extraordinary.
That is. I mean, right? That blows my mind. Like, seriously, that blows my mind. He is an outstanding musician. But he's very different to Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse wasn't just outstanding. she was fucking unique. She was talented in a way that I think even the likes of Ed Sheeran would say, yeah, man, she's different. It's a complete, she's up there with like Kurt Cobain was genius. He was just an absolute genius. He was. That's it. There's no other way. I think there's this raw musical talent that I don't think the world is ready for, and that's why we only get a little bit of it.
You see, you what you accentuate on top of is like if you've seen these artists talk, you know, from a couple of interviews or whomever, they're the kind of reluctant geniuses, which makes you even more mind blowing too. Like, you know, Kurt Cobain did not really get to grips with the stardom, struggled with it. It's like, I can't be arsed with all this. And, you know, interesting when you mentioned Ed Sheeran, yeah, he's technically, wow, because I went to see him live years ago, and he'd first of all start off with just recording a tiny little guitar loop. You have this little device that does that, and then that's going for a little bit, and you're like, okay, what's this going on to? And then he flicks something else on and flicks that thing on and tweaks that, and then gets that going, and then it all spills out bit by bit by bit by bit, and you're like, okay, wow, it's building and building and building. But these other artists, they kind of strip away all that, but they just deliver you the material straight away. It's like, you know, if you akin it to like boxing, it's like, you know, Ed Sheeran might be someone that like jabs you here and there, you know, keeps jabbing you, but, you know, an Amy Winehouse or a Kurt Cobain or a Liam Gallagher or whomever come up with it, literally just like knock you out in one hit, and he's like, whoa, shit.
Yeah.
And it's just the power of it, and you know, that's what I you know, see a little bit lacking nowadays. You know, not necessarily knowing obviously every artist and genre and taste out there, but it's interesting that so many guests on this show that have come on so far have all come back to those kind of artists and bands that they link to. You know, I said the same guest I had on 2 weeks ago, we went through just like a whole hour of classic 70s bands, 80s bands, 90s bands. Like, you know, he came from like the Black Sabbath days and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, all this stuff, you know. So it's like, that's what I mean, the classics that still come on today, you know.
See, I love Adamant, so I was a big fan of Adamant, man. I had the hots for him when I was about 9. And weirdly, Billy Joel as well. I was obsessed with Billy Joel. I remember my mum bought the Billy Joel album on tape, and I didn't get it, and I was pissed off with her. I was fucking furious. Honestly. But then, like, equally, I loved Tiffany, you know, like all the... But Renee and Renata, Saving All My Love for You, and I'll Shut Up in Your Face. There's absolute corkers out there that I'm pretty sure everybody's forgotten about. You need a reminder. You need like a cranky 70s and 80s songs that everyone's forgotten about.
Listen, those eras produce all range of classics, you know, from you know, weird earworms to like, you know, long standing stuff. And you know, the one thing I will say for today's landscape as well is that we mentioned before, you know, they keep touching childhood classic stuff and ruining it, but in some regards to music, I think there's a little bit of the other side there where, like, you know, last week I found this covers band who do their own material but do a lot of covers too, but they like took say like Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, and they've made like a disco metal mix with a female vocalist, which is ridiculous.
It sounds it.
Yeah, it still retains the disco feel, but they've just thrown a whole load of heavy metal guitar in and a female vocalist who just like explodes off the mic. And they've done it with a few, you know, classic rock songs and stuff, and it's like, okay, whoa.
There's definitely room out there for something new.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you know, I love Heart, When Will I Get You Alone. I can't even begin to. I mean, if you went through all the songs, I think there's about 20,000 songs in my phone. I think if you started it all and listened to it all, there's a bit of Chris Stapleton in there, definitely loads of Dolly Parton. I'm a big fan of Dolly. Kenny Rogers, Johnny Cash, absolute legend. Rudimental. The music. People are like, what music are you into? Well, fucking all of it. What do you mean all of it? All of it. All of it. Every single bit of it. I think every bit of music, even the stuff that you don't like, brings something. Because if you don't like it, it teaches you what you don't like. And then why don't you like it? Okay, because that's fucking important as well.
It's a great point you make. That's a very great point.
I think people don't think about that. Well, I don't like that music. Well, why don't you like? I don't like heavy metal, but it's not because I don't appreciate metal, because I do appreciate metal. But I've got a bipolar brain that's really loud and noisy. And heavy metal, for me, it's not that I don't like what it represents. It's just that that's far too intense for my brain. But then some days, so is house music, and like D&B and like bounce and all that kind of stuff. But on the right day, I'll listen to it. And I think that even the music that we hate has got a place in our life, regardless. We just don't realize it.
It's a really well made point there, because I think, and I used to be guilty of this as anybody, about it promotes that music snobbery in you, and that snobbery actually links to what I ultimately learned about self-worth. Now, I've mentioned previously on the show that like when I got into the music that I'm in, which is pretty much classic rock bands, it was in my formative years, probably early teenagers. So you're trying to look for that kind of validation from other people, find like-minded people, so you get that unity with like, oh, someone else gets it too. Like when you found someone that knew about that
It's horrible.
8-year-old. Yeah. When you found someone that, oh, someone else gets it. But when you're surrounded by others that are more into like your hip hop and R&B and all this kind of thing, and you try, I was trying to get them to like my kind of music. You'd share it and you go, I'm really into this, and you just get a load of like looks, or just like it's too loud. Yeah. And then you would take that as a judgment on you. Yeah. So rather than the music, you're like, well, am I? You even question yourself a bit, like, well, should I be listening to what they're listening to and this kind of thing? And their music is shit, and I don't get into it. And what's it all about? And this music is the right music. But as you go on and you learn a bit more about yourself, you're like, do you know what? You can still retain the fact that okay, you might only like subsets of music, but as you said, the stuff that you don't like, first of all, it's okay. Let them. Everyone's free to enjoy what they want to. There's no like, whether you think something's better than another is all subjective. So even if you don't like it, as you said, there's like, well, okay, like you said really well before, that at least you now know what you don't like.
Yeah,
and that's also underrated.
I think music genres were really dependent on the decade, and I beg, go with me on this one, right?
Okay.
So like 70s, it was all very retro. Like think of the 70s music. We couldn't reproduce that style now. We couldn't reproduce that sound. There's no way we'd get near it. The 80s was absolute pop music. It was popular music. It was all da 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 da. It was ballads. It was Duran Duran. It was Wham. We couldn't reproduce that. And I don't care what anybody says, the early 90s for me was the best R&B that was ever produced. TLC, Creep, all that era, Ashanti, Foolish, like all the early 90s stuff. And then mid to late 90s was when house music really hit. And I don't think we'll ever reproduce house music like we did in the 90s. We'll get good stuff. There is good stuff coming through without question. But it was vinyl. Vinyl sounds so different.
It's absolutely still does.
It's amazing, and it's all CDJs now, and it's much smoother mixing, and you've just lost that intimacy with the vinyl that you had before. And I think I'm not fickle. I think people might say it's fickle. You're fickle. You like one thing and then you like another. I don't. I've appreciated what is being achieved in the music world at the time that it's being achieved, and I've kept hold of what I've loved, but I've grown with the music that's out there at the time when I think it was at its best. I'm so lucky to have been born in the 70s, because I think we had the best. I think we've had the best spectrum of music so far.
Yeah, and to obviously be like today, you can as we mentioned before, access it. But when you're there living it live, it must have been something else completely.
Yeah.
you know, as I was a relative latecomer to my kind of music, it was the sort of, you know, probably late 90s, early 2000s that I started to pick up guitar band music and stuff like that, which is probably when it started to just start turning away from it, if you will. But I can't, like, to when you see these documentaries, you know, that outline, you know, what it was to be in that era, you just kind of, even though you were in it but didn't live it, you're like, okay, wow. So I can say with a lot of relative certainty that, like, okay, the mid 90s, we were the place to be. We hit, in England, we hit that kind of sweet spot of popular culture when music, politics, sport, all these things just came together for a very brief period, that we just like, right, we've actually nailed this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, things went their own way. But, you know, we've not seen a movement since then, I don't think.
Do you know what I think we are lacking? I think we might be lacking songs based around cricket.
Cricket?
Yes. Well, before I do anything like this, I always like to have a bit of a snoop around people's Facebook profiles, and I see that you're into cricket.
Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah.
There's never been a cricket song. Has there been any cricket songs?
Come on, Dreadlock Holiday.
What?
10cc, Dreadlock Holiday from 80s, I think, 70s, 80s. Check it out. 10cc, Dreadlock Holiday. Very, like, smooth reggae style, like, very famous song. So, I don't like cricket. Oh no.
I don't like cricket.
That's the one. Oh no.
Yeah.
There you go. And then, okay, not exclusively about cricket, but immediately when you think of a song interlinked with that, because that's very much used as, like, if anyone talks about the West Indies footage, because it's obviously got that reggae beat to it. There's a brilliant documentary about West Indies cricket called Fire in Babylon, which mixes all kind of music, because it, you know, in the West Indies, for example, they grew up around the sentiments of Bob Marley and you know, artists like that would fuel them to, you know, the heights they went to. When the cricket was on the BBC, you know, they had a very famous theme tune to obviously their radio coverage, but then later went into TV coverage. So yeah, I mean, look, when they have tournaments, they do have like a World Cup song. So incidentally, the Cricket World Cup is on at the moment, and India, they've made a World Cup song which is in there. It's the kind of generic Bollywoody style of today. To each their own, but you could remix Dreadlock Holiday. That'd be quite cool.
Do you know what? I'm really gutted that I've not even touched on. I didn't see Bob Marley, but I've seen the Wailers, and I've seen Ziggy Marley and Shaka. I went to an open air concert in a massive big bull ring in Palma in Mallorca, and it was a 2-day reggae festival, and I was 17. I was living in Magaluf at the time. Yes, I'd been 17. And I saw the Wailers. Yeah, it was mint. It was. I absolutely love reggae music. Big fan.
There must have been 2 of the most chilled days you could experience, right?
Everybody was really stoned. And my then boyfriend had a wifey, so I was. Well, yeah, it was brilliant. It was really. I think. I can't remember. It's all a bit vague now. I'm really joking. It was a really good 24 hours. Yeah. I did. Do you know what? I'm not a nightclub person. I used to be. I lived in Magaluf for quite a long time, and worked in quite a lot of clubs and partied quite hard out there. But I much prefer open airs. I like open air. I much prefer festivals and being in a field and listening to music and being surrounded by. I get really bad anxiety, and if I didn't have to leave the house, I would quite happily never leave the house. I get really anxious about traveling and all sorts of things, but put me in the middle of a field with 20,000 like-minded people
with some good music.
With some good music, and I'll happily just sit there all day and listen. And I'll need escorting out, and I'll need some support. And there's only a few trusted people that I would go with that I know will look after me if I freak out and have a meltdown. But yeah, man, I love the open air thing. I'm not a fan of being sort of inside. Nightclubs have never really been a thing for me. But yeah, I love a good festival. God, we've been talking for ages. Do we need to wrap this up?
I was looking at a time. It's like, you know, I don't mind if we go over a little bit, but you know, I always say leave the audience wanting more.
I'm aware.
Well, no, I've always got the idea that, like, look, let's get you back on the show. You know, if people enjoy it and you know the guests enjoy it, let's have you back on. I would love to do this again for sure. Look, Angelina, thank you so much for being on the show. You know, I've said I've probably got loads more to chat about, and we'll definitely get you back on the show at some point. You just want to give a shout out to people where they can find you if they want to find out more, get in touch with what you do, all that kind of thing.
Okay, so are we gonna hop on to?
Yeah, so for probably those who are watching or listening as like a few days after, we're doing an after show on our Instagram channels, which is something I do with the guests or offer the guests every time we record the show on the Monday. So we'll be hopping onto that, and I do that with the guests each time they come on this week. So we'll catch some of you on that platform in a minute. But as I say, to wrap up the show, if you just want to let the guests know like where they could find you to maybe chat more or find out about what you do as a coach and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me at the Soul Diadem, as in if I say Harry Potter, most people get it because it's a big thing, the diadem in Harry Potter, but it's obviously the, and then Soul, Soul, and then Diadem, Diadem, blimey, sorry about that. Yeah, I just pop over and give me a like and drop me a message. I'm going to start putting some lives up anyway. I'm a little bit more back on track now, so I'm just sort of getting myself back out there, and this is what I needed to get myself back fired up. So thank you for inviting me on your show. It's been awesome.
Not at all. Pleasure to have you on board, and as I said, we'll definitely do this again soon, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Please do like the video or podcast, comment with your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and sign up to be a guest on the show. Feel supersonic.